This would not be the first time or the last time anybody in the U.S. military has heard of military pay being messed with. And I'll say this because everyone's supposed to applaud that the military pay went up by 5%. Then we uncover some little legal details here, or Navy Times or Military Times does that, and they're saying people are not getting paid what they're supposed to. I will commend them for their hard work because this is important. Their title says Pentagon can boost pay for separated families to $400, but hasn't. This should be an alarm to you guys because it has been $250 since I've joined the military, and this is something that they are going to dive into. The Defense Department, thanks to the fiscal year 2024 Defense Policy Bill, has the authority to increase family separation allowance sharply, but it hasn't happened yet. In its current form, family separation allowance provides an additional tax-free $250 per month to service members who are involuntarily separated from their families for 30 days or more. Eligible circumstances include dependent restricted permanent duty tours unless the member volunteered, sea duty, and temporary duty away from the member's permanent duty station. The Defense Policy Bill, which President Joe Biden signed on December 22nd, authorized DoD to boost the allowance to $400 per month. My worries of this is everybody that's talking about recruiting, retention, all these other things. If you would recruit that and say, hey, you can be away from your family for a little bit. You get 30 days of leave, but you also could get $400 a month if you are away, would be some kind of incentive as well if you're looking to fulfill some very critical areas that are being discussed here. This includes what we call forward deployed naval forces and various people that are stationed abroad, especially in places near Taiwan, China, I don't know, maybe Japan, that have been critically manned billets that have not been fulfilled because their families cannot go with them. So essentially it would incentivize these people to allow them to go fulfill what is probably the most critical areas inside the entire DoD. They say despite the updated law, officials are waiting to decide whether they'll do it, according to a Pentagon spokesperson and an internal newsletter obtained by Military Times, because too many people are scared to say what the reality is. They say the department has not made any decision to change the monthly amount of family separation allowance at this time. So meaning they're trying to save money on the backs of military members. Said a Pentagon official who argued that Congress intended to create, quotations, a payment range with upper and lower payment boundaries. The official who requested anonymity to discuss ongoing policy deliberations said the law gives the DoD, quotations, flexibility over time to adjust payment levels without having to seek specific legislation to change the payment amount. And before anyone's like, Nicky, don't read too good in the comments, I appreciate it. People make mistakes. I'm trying to do a one-taker here. But anyway, the payment range does have me a little concerned or questioning what is going to happen with this, because are there going to be specific areas, like if you're stationed in Japan, for example, would that max you out at $400? If you're stationed in Europe or Italy, for example, would that max you out at $300? Like, how are they going to divide this range up here? Because it brings more questions than answers if this is the information they're going to get. And I don't know why the military is being shafted once again when it comes to pay and being like, we have to figure that out. If the military member is not where they're supposed to be near their family, that means that the military family has to incur greater hardship, greater issues, because this could be hard as a single parent dependent spouse that's letting their husband or spouse or whatever go overseas to fulfill the critical mission of the country as a whole. Woo! But here we are just putting our thumbs up our butts and saying like, we'll figure it out someday, right, Scoob? The Defense Policy Bill also required the Pentagon's regular reviews of military pay, which occur every 4 years, to include family separation allowance rates in their studies. The Pentagon official said in the review commission is expected to issue its final report and recommendations by the end of 2024, though it's uncertain whether family separation allowance will increase before or even after the study concludes. I will say this should be a call to action for every military person to write their representation and say, we want our money and we need it now, because that is the only way you're going to get this money, right? And for some reason, we could all debate and say if money was going to Ukraine, the military industrial complex, or X, Y, or Z, everything else seems to be the case of urgency and utmost importance. But I will say, the military, these people, if you are expecting to have any military left, you need to incentivize this. You need to look at this as a recruiting tool. You need to look at this as a sustainment retention tool. And lastly, I want to say that this is just a simple process of talent management that we still will continue to lose if we do not incentivize people to stay in, to do things like this and fulfill tough jobs that are out there. That's what I'm going to say. And if we are doing it on our own terms of whenever we get to it, you're going to lose critical people, especially as this year is tracking again to lose more people than ever, and also tracking to have the worst retention, worse than ever before. One of the law's original sponsors, Representative Tony Gonzalez of Texas, emphasized that the changes are intended to increase the amount of money going into troops' pockets. Our military families make great sacrifices every day. It's only fair that we do everything we can to improve their quality of life, Gonzalez said in a statement to Military Times. That is why I push hard to increase the family separation allowance in this year's NDAs for the first time in 2 decades. I will continue to work with the Department of Defense to ensure this boost is made a reality for military parents across the country. And they say advocates for military families express frustration with the Pentagon's inaction when reached by Military Times. It has been 20 years since the last increase of family separation allowance. It's time to bring it in line with the current cost of living, said Kelly Hruska, government relations director of the National Military Family Association, says this is what Congress intended. We are disappointed that the DoD chooses to ignore the will of Congress and keep this allowance flat. So we're going to do some basic math here. 2003, because 20 years ago, if we said that was 250, what would we be at? Let's calculate. $414, my guy. $414,000. If somebody was stationed overseas for 2 years, let's do 400 times 10. That's 4,000. You know, we're ballparking at least like 10 grand people could be missing out on if somebody wanted to be stationed overseas and obtain the benefits that come with that. And this is not falling on deaf ears. There are people across social media that are just as pissed off about this and vocalizing their opinions everywhere. And this is what they have to say. Plains and Whiskey says, "'Cause F 'em." And below that, there is Just a Fish 25 that says, in times of struggling recruitment, Department of Defense makes another great decision. And lastly, Ranger Tough 666 says, family separation pay is a joke. I had a buddy at the 82nd Airborne when I worked at JFK SWC. His unit put them in the field for 27 days, set up field showers, made every swinging D change into fresh uniform they'd be humping in the bottom of their ruck, gave families the opportunity in the middle of the week during work hours to see their soldier for 4 hours, then put them back in the field for 28 more days. We gave the soldiers the opportunity to see their families. We don't authorize S. 2 weeks later, they went to JFRTC for another month. BS. So this could be a game of technicality that units don't want to pay this out. I don't know if that's something that is recorded, if they're like, try and save your military money as much as possible. I would say if so, that's the first time in the military I've ever seen money trying to be saved in a proactive way, which is in the most effed up way. But this is where I get to you guys, because just like this guy has a story, I'm sure you guys out there do as well. And that is where we discuss down in the comments below. If you guys have further stories or information on this, I'd love to hear it, because obviously people are speaking in the shadows of anonymity, which I don't think is fair. I think this should be a very public thing, because the military is a public service. But as always, if you guys like what I cover on this channel, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.